Marcus Aurelius wrote about retreats. He said, "Nowhere is more peaceful than your own soul. That inner place is your last stand." This isn't about productivity. It's about 20 Stoic boundaries. These are mental structures. You build them to protect your focus. The world is designed to distract you. The key idea is this: true focus isn't about controlling the outside chaos. It's about governing the world inside your judgment. By the end, you'll have a toolkit, a philosophical one. To reclaim your attention, to direct it with purpose, think about the hours you've lost to the noise and what you could build with that time back. Epictetus started with a line: "Some things are up to us and some are not." That's the first boundary, the main one, the dichotomy of control. It's a filter for your attention. Every worry, every frustration, it goes into one of two categories. What you can control and what you can't. Your judgments, your intentions, your actions, those are yours. The weather, the past, what other people think, traffic, the news, a colleague's behavior. Those aren't. Stoic focus starts with this sorting, this relentless sorting. We exhaust ourselves, we scatter our energy, we pour it into the bucket of things we can't change. We rage against the rain instead of putting on a coat. We replay a critical comment. We give it a home it doesn't deserve, instead of focusing on our own next action. The principle asks a question, a brutal, liberating question of every thought that demands your focus. Is this up to me? If the answer is no, your attention has no business being there. It's a trespasser on your peace. Think about your own day. How much mental space was taken up, forecasting an outcome you can't guarantee, rehearsing a conversation that already happened, anxiously waiting for an email from someone else. That's spent energy, energy you won't get back. So here's a prompt, a way to start. Right now, pause. List three things you spent real mental energy on today that were, in truth, completely outside your control. Just naming them, that begins the process of reclaiming your focus. The second boundary is that moment of space between something happening and your reaction to it. The Stoics called this the Discipline of Assent. It's like a gatekeeper. Impressions come at you constantly. A loud noise, a harsh email, a phone notification. Your initial instinct is to accept it, to believe it's true and react. The discipline is to stop that, to say, wait, let me look at this first. Epictetus said people are disturbed not by things but by their views of them. The impression is just data. A notification ping is just a sound, text on a screen. The practice is pausing before you give that data meaning, before you let it take your attention. It's the difference between hearing a car backfire and thinking you're in danger, and hearing the sound, examining it, and knowing what it is. This is the skill for a world of instant reaction. Your phone lights up, the impression hits, someone needs me, I'm missing out. Your body tenses, your hand moves. The discipline is catching yourself in that. Noticing the urge and asking, what is this really? An emergency or an app trying to get my focus? By examining it, you get a choice back. You might still look, but now it's deliberate. Not a reflex, your attention stays yours. This works for internal impressions too. A wave of anxiety about a meeting. The untrained mind assents immediately. This is terrible, I'll fail. The practice is to step back, to say, that's a feeling, that's a thought. Let me look, is it fact or a story I'm telling? By not buying the story right away, you stop it from becoming hours of worry. So tomorrow, pick one automatic habit, maybe grabbing your phone when bored. Or instant defensiveness to feedback. Your practice is to catch that first impression, and in catching it, create a pause. Don't assent, just observe. That pause, however small, is where your freedom is. It's the boundary. It says my focus isn't for sale to my every impulse. To protect your focus, you sometimes have to choose discomfort. That's the third boundary, voluntary discomfort. It sounds like a contradiction. Why make things harder? For the Stoics, this was essential training. It builds a tolerance for life's minor irritations, so that easy distraction loses its power over you. An untrained mind seeks ease and pleasure. It wants the comfortable chair, constant entertainment, the immediate answer, and in that craving, it becomes a slave to anything offering a quick hit of satisfaction. A notification, a snack, a new tab to browse. Voluntary discomfort is the practice of saying no to that craving. Deliberately, you're building a muscle. The muscle of being okay with not being perfectly comfortable. Seneca wrote about practicing poverty. He would set aside days to live on plain food and wear his oldest clothes. Not because he had to, but to remind himself, to prove to his own mind he could be content without luxury, that his peace didn't depend on external conditions. The cold shower is the modern example. It's not really about the health benefits, it's about the moment of choice, standing there, hand on the faucet, knowing you're about to do something your body will protest. And doing it anyway. In that small victory, you teach your focus a crucial lesson. You are in charge, not the impulse for immediate ease. When you strengthen this muscle, the world's distractions become less compelling. Why? Because you've removed their primary weapon, the promise of relieving a discomfort you can no longer feel. Boredom is a discomfort, so you scroll. But if you've practiced sitting with boredom just for 10 minutes, its power fades. The urge to check your phone in line weakens. You can stand there, present, because you've practiced being present in harder moments. The applications are everywhere. Take the harder physical route. Walk instead of drive for a short errand, especially if the weather isn't perfect. Fast from social media or streaming for a full day. Not as punishment, but as an experiment, to see what your mind does when its usual pacifier is taken away. Eat a simple meal without any other stimulation. Just you and the food. In each of these, you're not seeking misery, you're seeking resilience. You're proving to yourself that your capacity for focus and peace isn't so fragile, that it doesn't break at the first sign of inconvenience. So here's a challenge for this week. Choose one small, voluntary discomfort, just one. It could be a cold shower for 30 seconds. It could be leaving your phone in another room for an hour after you wake up. It could be taking a walk without headphones. Observe what happens in your mind. Notice the initial resistance and then the quiet confidence that follows when you move through it. That confidence is the boundary being fortified. It's you remembering that you can handle more than you think. That your attention is worth protecting. You step back mentally. You look at your current worries from a vast, timeless perspective. That's the fourth boundary. The view from above. It's a deliberate shift in scale, a way to create mental space. You shrink the things that clamor for your attention. When you're lost in the noise of a single day, a single problem, it feels like the whole world. A critical comment fills the room. A missed deadline feels like a permanent failure. The practice is to pull the camera back, way back, to see your life, your city, your planet as a tiny part of a much larger story. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this. In his private writings, he constantly reminded himself of the vastness of time and space. He would write, "Think of the whole of existence, of which you are the tiniest part. Think of the whole of time, in which you have been assigned a brief and fleeting moment." He wasn't trying to make life feel meaningless. He was trying to create perspective. To drain the false urgency from petty anxieties. How does this protect your focus? It acts as a filter for significance. That stressful email, that social slight, that minor inconvenience. When viewed from the cosmic scale, its true size is revealed. It is not the center of the universe. It's a small event on a small planet, in the life of a small creature who will, in the grand scheme, be here for only a moment. This realization isn't depressing, it's incredibly freeing. It creates spaciousness in your mind, room to breathe, and room to choose what truly deserves your energy. Let's try it right now. Think of a minor irritation from your week. Maybe a rude driver, a long line, a piece of critical feedback that stung. Now, begin the view from above. First, imagine looking down on your own neighborhood from a few hundred feet in the air. See the rooftops, the cars like toys. Your problem is in one of those buildings. Then pull back further. See your entire city as a grid of lights. Then further. See the curve of the planet, the continents, the blue marble hanging in the black void of space. From here, can you even locate that initial irritation? It has vanished into the scale. The emotion it triggered, the mental energy it consumed, now seems disproportionate. It was a ripple in a pond mistaken for a tidal wave. This practice doesn't mean you ignore real problems. It means you stop inflating small ones. It returns your focus to what is actually worthy of it. Your character, your actions, your contribution to the people in your immediate orbit. Against the backdrop of centuries, your focus is a precious, limited resource. Will you spend it on gossip, on resentment, on refreshing a news feed? Or will you invest it in something that, from this higher view, actually matters? So tonight, before sleep, try this. Review your day, and for one worry that lingered, apply the view from above. Watch as its imagined weight dissolves. In that spaciousness, you'll find a clearer mind, a more resilient focus, ready for what actually counts. The Stoic vaccination for the mind. It's called premeditatio malorum. The premeditation of adversity. You're rehearsing for the things that could derail you, not for success, for the setbacks. The idea is simple. You walk through the potential problems mentally, and you drain them of their shocking power, so when they arrive, they're not unexpected invaders, they're familiar visitors. You already know how to handle them. Seneca said the wise person anticipates everything, so nothing happens against their expectation. This is the opposite of anxious worry. Worry is chaotic. It's fearful energy spent on imagined catastrophes you can't control. Premeditation is calm. It's a structured exercise in resilience. It asks a practical question. What could go wrong in my plan to focus today? And then it scripts your response. You're inoculating your attention against the virus of surprise. Think of an athlete. They don't just visualize winning, they visualize the stumble, the dropped pass, the roar of a hostile crowd. They practice their recovery, so when it happens, their focus doesn't shatter. It tightens. Your work is no different. You sit down for deep work. The untrained mind just hopes for quiet. The Stoic practitioner spends 2 minutes beforehand. In premeditation, what are the likely interruptions? A notification from a messaging app, a colleague stopping by your desk, a wave of fatigue halfway through. Now, instead of those events triggering a frustrated reaction, you have a plan. For the notification, you've already decided. You'll glance at it, categorize it as non-urgent, and return to your task without opening it. For the colleague, you've rehearsed a polite script. I'm in the middle of something important. Can we connect at 3? For the fatigue, you've pre-committed to standing up for 60 seconds, taking 3 deep breaths, not reaching for your phone. The interruption still happens. But your focus isn't hijacked. You just execute the plan you already wrote. Your mental energy stays on track. So here's the prompt. Before your next focused block of time, premeditate one common interruption. Just one, the ding of an email, a family member asking a question, your own urge to check the news. Mentally script your ideal, calm response. Write it down if it helps. This builds a boundary of preparedness. It tells your mind that setbacks are part of the landscape, not reasons to abandon the journey. When nothing catches you completely off guard, your capacity for sustained attention grows unshakable. Greatness comes from Amor Fati, loving your fate. Nietzsche took that from the Stoics. It's the 6th boundary, the ultimate acceptance, not passive, an active embrace. A joyful embrace of everything that happens, the setbacks, the delays, the frustrations, because fighting reality drains your focus. It's one of the greatest drains. You can spend hours in mental resistance, days resisting what's already true. The meeting was cancelled, the project hit a snag, the weather ruined your plans. The untrained mind sees an obstacle. It grumbles, it complains, it replays the injustice. That's energy, precious mental energy, burned in a furnace of resentment. Amor Fati asks you to step out of that furnace, to look at the same event and say, I will accept this. I will love it because it's part of my life, and within it is a benefit. A lesson, a hidden path. Marcus Aurelius wrote that, accept what the nature of the whole has brought you, and love the people you're fated to share it with. That's the shift from seeing life as random disruptions to your plan, to seeing your plan as navigating every disruption, using every disruption. How does this protect focus? It ends the internal civil war. Your energy is no longer divided between what you want and what is. It's unified, channeled into what you can do with what is. Think of a cancelled plan. The default is frustration, wasted time, a ruined evening. Amor Fati reframes it. This isn't a loss, it's a sudden gift, 2 hours you didn't have. Time that can now be invested in that deep work project, in reading that book, in calling a family member. The event didn't change, but your relationship to it did. And in that shift, your focus is liberated. It's no longer trapped wishing things were different. It's free to engage with things as they are. This practice turns every obstacle into fuel. A difficult person becomes a lesson in patience. A failure becomes a masterclass in what doesn't work. A delay becomes an incubation period for better ideas. Your focus isn't broken by these events. It's sharpened by them because you're no longer distracted by the fight. You're engaged in the opportunity. So here's a prompt. Recall a recent annoyance, however small, a traffic jam, a rude comment online, a piece of technology that failed. Now apply the question of Amor Fati. What's the potential benefit here? Not in a naive way, in a practical, stoic way. The traffic jam forced a moment of quiet. The rude comment revealed a topic you're sensitive about. A chance for self-knowledge. The broken gadget created a necessary break from constant connectivity. When you search for the benefit, you train your mind to see the world differently. You build a boundary that says no event can steal my focus. Only my judgment about that event can, and my judgment is mine to command. The mind is a fortress. That's the 7th boundary, the inner citadel. It's not a physical place, it's a state you build. A sanctuary inside your own judgment. When the noise outside gets too much, you don't fight it there. You retreat to a place it can't reach. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He said you have power over your mind, not outside events, and realizing that, that's where you find strength. That strength is the citadel. Its walls are your principles, your reasoned choice, your character. The chaos of the world, the demands, other people's opinions, they're like an army outside the gates. They shout, they throw things, but inside it's quiet. There's focus, because you've separated what is you from what's just happening to you. This is the final boundary. You're declaring part of yourself sovereign, off limits to the drama outside. How do you build it? You start with a foundation, clear principles. What do you stand for? Integrity, compassion, diligence, these aren't abstract, they're the stones. Every time you act from them, you add another layer, then you practice the retreat. Not physically, but mentally. In a stressful meeting, when tension builds, you take 3 breaths. In that space, you're not in the room, you're in your citadel. Observing the chaos, but not part of it, you recall a core virtue, patience maybe, and from that calm, you choose your response. It's not a reaction anymore. It's a decision. The applications are immediate. When social media pulls you to compare, you retreat inward. You ask, what's true for me right now, not what's being shown. Your worth isn't determined out there, it's guarded in here. When anxiety about the future hits, you don't let it storm the gates. You stand on the wall and look at it. You examine it from the safety of your reasoned mind. Is this a real threat to my character or just noise? Usually, it's just noise, so here's a prompt. Define one principle, one unshakable stone. It could be a commitment to finishing what you start, a vow to speak with kindness even when frustrated, a promise to protect an hour of deep work each day. That's your core value, the one you won't compromise. Write it down, keep it simple. When the siege begins, when notifications blare and pressures mount, retreat to that principle. Touch that stone, remember what you built inside. Your focus doesn't live out in the chaotic battlefield. It lives here in the quiet strength of the citadel. Guard it. The eighth boundary is Memento Mori. Remember you must die. It's a stark thought, but for the Stoics, it wasn't about fear. It was a lens, a source of fierce priority. Mortality is the truest measure of value we have. It asks the only question that matters. Is this how I want to spend the time I have? Marcus Aurelius kept this close. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, not to live in panic, to live with intention. Let the awareness of an ending shape your beginnings. And your middles, it cuts through distraction like nothing else. When you remember your time is finite, the unimportant loses its grip. The drama, the gossip, the endless scroll. These things can't withstand a simple question. If this day were my last, is this where I'd place my final attention? Is this the final impression I want to feed my mind?" The answer is almost always no, a gentle, firm no. That no is the boundary, a silent gate that closes against the trivial. It opens only to what is meaningful. What connects you to your purpose, to your loved ones, to work that feels like a contribution? This practice doesn't mean you must do grand things every moment. It means whatever you do it with your full presence. A conversation with a friend becomes sacred because it is not guaranteed. An hour of deep work becomes a worthy investment of a fragment of your life. Even rest becomes deliberate, chosen renewal, not passive avoidance. So here's a prompt, a simple application. Today, choose one task, one single thing you plan to do. A work project, a creative endeavor, a difficult conversation, or just being fully present for a meal. Now, approach it with this thought. This could be the last time I ever do this. How would that change the quality of my attention? Would I rush through it distracted, or would I give it the focus it deserves as a final act of respect for my own time? Write that task down, not as a to-do item, but as a commitment to presence. Then do it with that awareness. You'll find a depth of focus you didn't know was available. Because you've touched the truth that makes all focus possible. Our time is the one non-renewable resource, and remembering that is the ultimate guard against wasting it on noise. What you really want, is it for other people to clap, or is it to feel good about who you are when you're by yourself? That's the ninth boundary, the discipline of desire. It's about turning the engine of your motivation in a different direction. A desire that's pointed the wrong way might be the biggest distraction possible. We want the notification, the like, the promotion, the visible sign that we've made it, and in that wanting, we give our focus away. We work for the outcome, not for the work. We turn into performers, always looking to see how the audience is reacting. Epictetus had a way out. He said freedom isn't about getting what you want. It's about getting rid of the want. He meant the wants for things you can't control. Freedom is wanting only what's in your power, your effort, your honesty. Your diligence, not the results, not the praise. If you want a post to go viral, you're at the mercy of an algorithm. You're at the mercy of strangers. Your focus scatters. You check the numbers, you compare, you tweak things just for appeal. But if you want to do excellent, focused work, if you want to express a truth clearly or solve a problem in an elegant way, then your focus becomes a laser. The work itself is the reward. The satisfaction is inside you, and it's immediate. No one can take it from you. That's the redirection. From wanting to be seen as successful to wanting to do work that is successful, the first one makes you anxious. It makes you distracted. The second one brings a deep, quiet kind of concentration. Think about your own goals. How many of them are really about wanting validation from outside? Wanting a certain job title might actually be a want for respect. Wanting a big social following might be a want to belong. The Stoic practice is to dig down to that root and then turn that energy somewhere else. Take the desire for respect and point it toward acting with integrity. Whether anyone sees it or not, take the desire for belonging and point it toward being fully present and being kind in the relationships you actually have. Then your focus has a true north. It's not getting pulled by every opinion that comes along. So here's something to think about this week. Find one desire you can consciously redirect. Maybe you want praise for a project. Redirect that into the meticulous care you put into the project itself. Maybe you want the peace of a clean house. Redirect that into the mindful act of cleaning one room. Find the satisfaction in the order you create. The target moves from an external outcome you can't control to an internal action you completely can. In that shift, you take back your focus and you take back your freedom. The evening review is the 10th boundary. It's what the Stoics called an examination of conscience. Not about guilt, it's a daily audit, a brief, honest look at where your attention went and why. This is the tool for continuous improvement. You can't reinforce a wall you never inspect. Seneca practiced this every night. He describes the ritual in his letters. When the light was taken away and his wife had fallen silent, he examined his entire day. He reviewed what he had done and said. He asked himself, what fault did you cure today? What vice did you resist? Where did you fall short? He was looking for patterns. Not to punish himself, to learn, to become a better guardian of his own mind the next day. Apply this to your focus. The review is simple. It takes 2 minutes. You ask 2 core questions. When did I lose focus today? And what was the trigger? You're not judging. You're investigating, like a scientist studying an experiment that didn't go as planned. The goal is data, the data of your own distractions. You sit quietly at the end of the day. You recall a moment your attention scattered. Maybe you were writing a report and you found yourself scrolling through social media for 20 minutes. The first question, when? Pinpoint the time. The second question, what was the trigger? Was it external? A notification popped up and you followed it. Or was it internal? A feeling of boredom or difficulty with the task arose and you sought an escape. That's the insight. You learn your own vulnerabilities. You see that your focus didn't just vanish. It was lured away by a specific bait. Now you know what that bait looks like. This practice turns every lapse into a lesson. It builds the boundary of self-awareness. If you see that you consistently lose focus mid-afternoon when a certain feeling arises, you can prepare for it tomorrow. You can set a premeditated response. You can choose to take a short walk instead of reaching for your phone. The review closes the loop. It takes the principles from the day and etches them into your understanding. So tonight, conduct that 2-minute review. Focus solely on your stewardship of attention. Ask those questions. When did I lose focus? What was the trigger? Write down one simple observation. No long journal entry needed, just a note, a single line of data about your own mind. This small act does something. It turns the day from a blur of activity into a map you can use to navigate tomorrow with far greater clarity and control. Your focus becomes something you cultivate, not something you hope for. And each evening you get to measure how much stronger the walls have become. The archer draws the bowstring. His world narrows to the arrow, his body's alignment, the stillness of his breath. The Stoic is like that archer, focused entirely on the shot, not on whether the wind takes the arrow. That's the 11th boundary, cognitive detachment from outcomes. It's a subtle shift. You invest your full focus in the action itself, while remaining indifferent to the specific result, because the result is often external. Out in that wind, anxiety over what will happen scatters your focus. Commitment to doing the thing well centers it. Cicero retold this analogy. He explained the archer's goal is to do all he can to shoot well. That's his entire job, to aim true, to release smoothly, to follow through. Once the arrow leaves the bow, it's no longer his, the wind, the target, the final impact. Those belong to fortune. If he ties his happiness to the arrow hitting the bullseye, he makes himself a slave to forces he cannot command. His hands will shake. His focus will split between his technique and his hope. He will miss more often, not less. The Stoic practice is to care deeply about the shooting and to care not at all about the score. This isn't apathy, it's the highest form of concentration. Seneca echoed this. He wrote about doing one's duty well. The duty is the action. The outcome is a secondary concern. When you pour your energy into worrying about the reaction, the approval, the win, you drain that energy from the quality of the work itself. Your mind is no longer in the room with the task. It's out in a hypothetical future trying to control 1,000 variables it never can. That's where focus goes to die. Think of preparing a presentation. The untrained mind focuses on the outcome. Will they like me? Will I get the deal? Will I look foolish? That anxiety infects the preparation. It makes you rush. It makes you choose flash over substance. It scatters your research because you're imagining criticisms instead of building understanding. The Stoic practitioner focuses on the action, the quality of the preparation itself, understanding the material so deeply you can explain it simply, structuring the argument with clarity, practicing the delivery until it feels natural. Your entire focus is there, in the work. The audience's reaction, the final decision, that's the arrow in the wind. You've already done your job by shooting well. This detachment doesn't mean you don't want to succeed. It means your sense of worth, your measure of a day well spent, is anchored in the effort, not the prize. That anchor steadies you. It makes your focus unshakable because it's no longer vulnerable to external validation. So here's a prompt. A way to practice this boundary today. Choose one task, something you'll do anyway. It could be writing an email, having a difficult conversation, working on a creative project. As you begin, make a conscious mental shift. Say to yourself, my job is only to do this to the best of my ability, with full attention. My job ends there. Then, as you work, whenever you feel your mind leap ahead to the result, to what it might mean, gently guide it back. Back to the sentence you're writing, back to the words you're hearing, back to the brushstroke or the line of code. Do the thing for its own sake. Mentally release the need for a specific outcome. You might find the work becomes more enjoyable, more fluid. And ironically, by focusing only on the shot, you often find the arrow flies truer than you ever expected. Silence is that first line of defense. There's a boundary, the 12th one, and it's just a mandatory pause, a 3-second rule of mental stillness, right between the impulse and whatever you are going to say. You let silence be the default. It's the discipline of assent, but applied out in the world, socially. Most of what we say when we react is just a distraction. It's a drama we create, and it pulls all the focus away from whatever our actual purpose is. It feels urgent, but it's almost never necessary. Zeno said this. He was the founder of Stoicism. He said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so we can listen twice as much as we speak. The wisdom is in that proportion. Listening, it conserves energy. Reactive speech, it expends that energy, wildly, usually on conflicts that would just vanish if you waited. Seneca wrote about this, the dangers of speech you haven't considered. He said anger is a temporary madness, and the words from it are like weapons thrown in the dark. You can't call them back, and you rarely hit the target you meant to. That pause, that's the space where the madness subsides. It's where you take your focus back from the heat of the moment. You return it to whatever your long-term aim is. Think about getting a critical email. The provocation is right there on the screen. Your immediate impulse is to defend, to explain, to counterattack. That impulse is a fire, and your focus is the fuel. The boundary is the decision not to feed it. You close the tab, you stand up, you take 3 deep breaths. You count to 3 slowly in the silence of your own mind, and in that space, the emotional charge just dissipates. Then you can see the email, not as a personal attack, but as data. Maybe there's a useful point in there, buried in a poor delivery. Maybe it's just a reflection of the sender having a bad day. Your response, when you finally draft it, will be measured. It will be effective, and it will have cost you a fraction of the mental energy, a fraction of what a heated exchange would have consumed. This applies everywhere. In a meeting, a colleague dismisses your idea. That 3-second pause prevents a defensive retort, the kind that makes collaboration impossible. Instead, it creates room for a question. A curious one: can you help me understand your concern? At home, after a long day, a thoughtless comment from a loved one might trigger a sharp reply. The pause lets you hear the fatigue behind the words, not just the words themselves. Your response becomes one of connection, not escalation. Every time you institute that small silence, you protect a reservoir of focus. You stop pouring it into ephemeral dramas. You preserve it for meaningful work, for genuine connection. So here's a challenge for tomorrow. Choose one conversation. One interaction where you anticipate a trigger. It might be a weekly check-in with a manager, a call with a client, or even a chat with a teenager. Your practice is to implement the 3-second rule. After they speak, especially if the words provoke a reaction, you consciously hold the silence. You count 1, 2, 3 in your mind before you utter a single word. Don't use the time to formulate your rebuttal. Use it to truly hear what was said, to feel the impulse to react, feel it rise, and then feel it fall within you. Then speak. The difference in the quality of the interaction and the calm you keep afterward. It will show you the power of this boundary. It turns every conversation into a practice of focus, where your attention remains yours to direct, not a prize to be snatched by the first provocative word. Marcus Aurelius gave himself a command: you can throw out most of the junk that fills your head. That's the 13th boundary. It's contempt for the surface, an active philosophical disdain. A choice to see gossip, frivolous news, status games, to see them as beneath you, unworthy of the space you have. This isn't arrogance, it's selection. Your attention is a throne room, and you decide what gets in. Most of what's asking to come in is just junk. It has no substance, it gives nothing, it only takes your time, it stains the way you see things. The Stoics called this indifference to trivia. Seneca kept warning about the crowd. He said you have to avoid the conversations of the many. Their talk is always the same: gladiators, horses, athletes, or today, celebrity scandals, viral outrage, the small dramas of people you'll never meet. He wasn't saying these things are evil. He was saying they're empty. They're mental fast food. Consuming them leaves you malnourished, unable to focus on what really needs your energy. Musonius Rufus taught that philosophy is learning how to live well, and a big part of that, he said, is turning away from what the crowd chases, the chase for luxury, for applause. Because that chase is a treadmill, it goes nowhere, but it uses you up completely. The practice is to cultivate a gentle contempt, not for people, but for the trivial things they often talk about. When someone brings up the latest gossip, your internal response isn't curiosity. It's a quiet, firm dismissal. This is not for me. My mind is not a place for this. You don't have to be rude. You can just change the subject or listen politely, but refuse to let the information take root. Treat it like background noise in a cafe. You know it's there, but you don't engage with it. You don't give it a home. How do you start? With a media diet audit. For one day, track what you consume. Not just food, information, the news headlines you scroll past, the social media commentary you read, the water cooler conversations you join. At the end of the day, ask one question. Did this nourish my mind? Did it help me live better, work better, be kinder? or was it just junk cluttering the shelves of your attention? The next step is practicing not having an opinion on things that don't matter. You are not required to have a take on every celebrity breakup, every political gaffe, every minor controversy. Your opinion is a piece of your focus. When you form one on trivia, you've invested a part of yourself in something that will be forgotten by next week. You've created a mental attachment to a soap bubble. So let it float by. Your peace is more valuable than being in the know. So here's a reflective prompt, a simple one. List 3 sources of mental junk you will consciously disregard for the next 24 hours. It could be a specific news website you check out of habit, the comment section on a particular platform, the office chatter about who said what. Write them down. And for one day, practice your philosophical contempt. See them for what they are, distractions dressed up as urgency. When the urge to engage comes up, remember the throne room. Ask, does this deserve an audience? The answer will almost always be no. And in that no, you take back a quiet corner of your mind, a corner cleared of clutter, ready for something that actually matters. The past is gone, the future isn't here yet. Your power is only in the present. That's the 14th boundary. It says the present is the only place your focus can actually do anything. Regret pulls you back, anxiety pulls you forward. Both of them are thieves. They steal the only real resource you have, which is the minute you're living in right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote this command to himself: confine yourself to the present. He wasn't talking about ignoring consequences. He was mapping where effective action happens. You can plan for the future, but you can only act now. You can learn from the past, but you can only apply that lesson now. Distraction is almost always a form of time travel. Your body is in a chair, but your mind is replaying a conversation from yesterday or rehearsing one for tomorrow. In both places, you're powerless. You can't change what was said. You can't control what will be said. You're a ghost in a time that doesn't exist, while the life you could be living slips by. Epictetus pointed to the source of so much suffering. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The future you fear is a story you're telling yourself. The past you regret is a recording you keep playing. The boundary is the decision to hit stop on that recording, to close that book, and to put your entire awareness into the physical reality of this second. This is where focus isn't just possible, it's natural. It's the default state of a mind that isn't fleeing to another time. Think about the last meeting you were in. Your body was there, but where was your attention? Maybe you were drafting an email in your head or thinking about a comment from earlier. The speaker's words became a blur. The chance to say something meaningful passed you by. The practice is noticing that drift and then, with a gentle hand, guiding your attention back. Not to the whole meeting, but to the single sentence the person is speaking right now, the tone of their voice, the meaning they're trying to convey. Your arena shrinks to that, just that. When you do this, something shifts. The meeting stops being a chore to endure. It becomes a series of moments to engage with. Your contributions get sharper because they come from actually listening. Your learning deepens. This applies to any task, washing dishes. Your mind wants to race to what's next, to the show you'll watch after. The boundary is feeling the warmth of the water on your hands, noticing the shape of the plate, the simple rhythm of the work. In that narrowing, a strange peace comes up. The chore becomes almost meditative. Your focus is no longer split between a disliked present and a desired future. It's whole, and in being whole, it finds a quiet satisfaction even in the mundane. The Stoics saw this as the essence of freedom, to be fully where you are, to do fully what you're doing, nothing more and nothing less. Your judgment, your action, your virtue, they have no other home but this exact point in time. So here's a simple exercise. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Find a quiet place to sit. Your task is to focus solely on your breath or on a single sensation. The feeling of your feet on the floor, the sound of traffic outside, every time your mind wanders to a past mistake or a future worry, and it will just acknowledge the thought. You might even label it past or future. Then, without any frustration, return your attention to the breath, to the sensation, to the now. You're not trying to achieve a blank mind. You're practicing the muscle of return, the muscle that pulls your scattered attention back to the only arena where it can ever be of any use. This 5-minute practice is a drill. It trains you for the meeting, for the hard work, for the conversation. It teaches your mind that the present moment isn't a prison to escape from. It's the only ground you have to stand on to build anything of value. My primary role is my philosophical job description. That one sentence becomes a filter. The 15th boundary is about defining that role. It's clarifying my core duties, my character in the world. So I can see which requests are asking me to abandon my post. Epictetus spoke of this. He said, remember, you are an actor in a play. The play is of a certain kind. It's chosen by the director. Your job is to play your assigned part well. To choose the part is not up to you, but to play it well is your entire business. The distractions of life, the pulls on your attention, they're often invitations to step out of your role, to try and play someone else's part. A colleague wants you to engage in gossip. They're asking you to play the critic when your role is collaborator. A social media feed demands your outrage. It's asking you to play the commentator when your role today is creator. A late-night request for extra work that conflicts with family time. It's asking you to play the perpetual pleaser when your role is present parent. When you have your one-sentence description clear, the no becomes simple. It's not personal. It's not a rejection of the person. It's an affirmation of your duty. Your boundary is a polite refusal aligned with your philosophical purpose. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor. His role was clear, to be a just ruler, a servant of his people. When flatterers came to him seeking vanity or petty politics, he had his filter. Does this serve my role as a ruler, or does it serve my ego? The answer dictated his focus. He turned back to the work of governance. For us, the application is just as practical. You are a writer. Your philosophical job description might be to clarify complex ideas through clear, thoughtful prose. A distraction comes, a trending debate, an unrelated meeting invitation. You run it through the filter. Does this help me clarify ideas through prose? If the answer is no, your focus has no business being there. You are a teacher. Your description is to create a space for genuine understanding and growth. Administrative bureaucracy threatens to consume your week. You filter it. Does this task directly create space for understanding? If not, you handle it with minimal necessary attention. You protect your energy for what fulfills your role. The power is in the simplicity. You are not managing 100 priorities. You are protecting one core duty. Everything else is evaluated against it. So here is a reflective prompt, a way to build this boundary. Take a moment. Write down your one-sentence philosophical job description. Not your official title, but your deepest duty. As a parent, it might be to be a steady, loving guide. As a professional, to solve meaningful problems with integrity. As a citizen, to contribute to my community with thoughtful action. Keep this sentence somewhere you can see it. Tomorrow, when a new demand lands in your lap or a shiny distraction appears, pause. Ask your filter, does this align with my primary role? The clarity that follows is profound. It turns a chaotic day into intentional choices. You stop trying to be everywhere for everyone. You start being exactly where you are meant to be. Your focus settles, no longer scattered across a dozen competing identities. It finds the calm strength of a single, well-played part. A cluttered space is shouting at you visually. A cluttered schedule is screaming at you in time. You have to quiet them. This is about physical minimalism and order. It's the 16th boundary. It's seeing that your outside environment isn't separate from your inside state. It's a loop. Disorder outside makes disorder inside. It scatters your mind before you even start thinking. The Stoic aim for tranquility was always linked to simplicity, to having only what you need for a good life. Not because things are bad, but because every single thing is a possible demand on your attention, something to manage, to clean, to worry about, to compare. Seneca saw this. He wrote that wealth is a slave to a wise person and a master to a fool. And about busyness, he warned about the barrenness of a busy life. He wasn't against action, he was against activity for its own sake, against collecting commitments that don't connect to your purpose. Both wealth and busyness, when they're not tied to reason, become these huge distractions. They make noise. The point of this boundary is to turn that noise down, to create external calm so your internal focus has room. Think about your desk. Every item you can see is a quiet question. A stack of papers asks when you'll file it. A decoration asks if you still like it. A half-done project whispers that you haven't finished. This isn't just a metaphor. Science backs it up. Visual clutter fights for your brain's processing power. It creates this background tension. A clean, ordered space, though, says nothing. It fades back. It becomes a blank surface, letting your mind put its own intentions there without a fight. It's the same with your calendar. Every commitment is a piece of your future attention already spent. A week full of meetings and events and chores has no open space, no room for deep work or for just thinking or for being. It's a schedule that screams, and it leaves you mentally out of breath. The practice is Stoic triage. It's a deliberate sorting of your physical stuff and your time. You ask of each thing, each commitment, does this serve my main purpose? Does it help me live with virtue and focus? If the answer is no or not really, then having it there is a tax on your peace. Start small, with one act of removal. On your desk, find one object that's just decorative, that does nothing for your work. A mug you got as a gift but never use, a pile of old magazines. A broken gadget you keep thinking you'll fix. Take it away, put it in a drawer, or give it away or throw it out. Feel that slight opening of visual space. In your calendar, look at the next week. Find one commitment that's optional, something you said yes to out of obligation, or just to be polite, not because it fits. A meeting that could have been an email, a social thing you're dreading, an errand you could put off or give to someone else. If you can, cancel it. If you have to go, then mentally rename it. See it not as a drain, but as practice in patience. But the best thing is to take that block of time back as open space. The relief you feel isn't just practical. It's philosophical. You're practicing the Stoic idea of enough. You're saying your focus is worth more than the illusion of being productive or socially busy that clutter often gives you. So here's a prompt. Find one physical object around you right now, or one thing on your calendar this week that you can remove. Don't make it a big project. Pick something small but meaningful, a little trinket on a shelf, a regular meeting that doesn't add much. As you remove it, notice the quiet that comes after. That quiet isn't empty. It's the sound of your attention settling back where it belongs, ready for the work that actually matters. You make a plan, but the world has its own plan. That's the 17th boundary, the reserve clause. It's just a simple phrase you add. I'll finish this report, fate permitting. I'll have a quiet evening, fate permitting. It's not about doubt, it's about integration. You bring your full effort together with a complete acceptance of whatever actually happens. The Stoics had a name for this. The doctrine of reservation. You act with all your will, but you hold the outcome in open hands. Epictetus taught that. You undertake the action, but you reserve judgment about the result. You say, I will sail across the sea unless something prevents me. This reservation isn't an excuse. It's what allows for full effort, because without it, you get attached. And when things go sideways, that attachment shatters your focus. Your plan becomes a brittle contract with reality, and reality always breaks that contract eventually. When it does, your focus shatters too. Your energy goes into frustration, into the injustice of the interruption, instead of into adapting to the new situation. The reserve clause builds flexibility into your mindset from the start. It pre-arms your response. Think about planning a 2-hour block for deep work. The untrained mind sees it as a sealed unit. I will work from 10 to 12 uninterrupted. Then, at 10:45, something happens. A family member needs help. The internet goes down. A migraine starts. The mind that didn't use the reserve clause feels betrayed. Its focus is hijacked by anger, by disappointment. The 2 hours are ruined, but the practitioner who planned with the clause sees it differently. I intended to work from 10 to 12, fate permitting. Fate did not permit. Now, what's the best use of my focus given this new reality? The shift is immediate. Your energy flows into solution, into adaptation. Not into fighting a fact. Your focus remains intact. It's just redirected. It's a boundary against the tyranny of your own expectations. This applies to everything. You plan a peaceful weekend trip, fate permitting. It rains the whole time. The clause was already there, so your mind is primed to find the beauty in a cozy cabin. Or to just accept the rest the rain forces on you. You aim to present an idea at a meeting, fate permitting. The meeting gets cancelled. Your preparation wasn't wasted. It clarified your own thinking. The clause helps you see that value, instead of just seeing a missed opportunity. The reserve clause turns every plan into a hypothesis. Not a decree. You're the scientist testing an action in the laboratory of the world. The result is just data. It confirms your hypothesis or it doesn't. It's not a personal failure. It's not a cosmic insult. So here's a prompt. Take one plan you have for the rest of today. Something simple. I will go for a walk after dinner. Or I will finish this chapter. Now, rephrase it silently with the reserve clause. I will go for a walk after dinner, fate permitting. I will finish this chapter, fate permitting. Notice the subtle shift. The plan feels lighter and stronger. Lighter because you've released the rigid demand that it must happen. Stronger because your commitment is now to your intention. Not to a specific fragile outcome. You've built a boundary, one that keeps your focus resilient. No matter what the world brings next, the noisy colleague, the broken website. They're not alien invaders. They're part of the same universe you're in. This is the 18th boundary, Sympatheia, a felt sense of interconnectedness. It's recognizing that everything, even the distraction, is a thread in one single tapestry. When you see the world that way, friction melts. That us versus them mentality, the one that drains so much focus, it just loses its power. You stop fighting the fabric of reality. You start working with its weave. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea constantly. He wrote that all things are woven together and the common bond is sacred. Nothing is truly alien to us. All are fellow citizens of one world. He was reminding himself, the person who cut him off in traffic, the senator who opposed him, they weren't enemies in a separate story. They were part of the same whole, acting from their own limited understanding, their own struggles. This perspective isn't about approving bad behavior. It's about understanding its source, and in that understanding you reclaim your peace. Your focus isn't hijacked by adversarial anger, it stays with you. Observing the pattern, not just the snag. Think of the last time you were in a crowded, noisy place, an airport, a busy store. The default reaction is to see the crowd as an obstacle. A mass of inconvenient humanity blocking your path, slowing you down. Each person becomes a slight against your personal space, your timeline. That view is exhausting. It turns every bump and delay into a personal affront. Sympatheia asks you to shift the lens. See the crowd not as obstacles, but as fellow humans, each person carrying their own invisible weight. A parent traveling with a tired child, a student anxious about getting home, a worker just trying to get through a long shift. They're not trying to ruin your day. They're living their own day right beside you. This simple reframe drains the frustration. It allows patience to surface. Your focus can then turn to navigating the situation calmly, rather than simmering in resentment. The application is profound for daily irritations. The coworker who talks too loudly on calls. Instead of building a narrative about their rudeness, you might consider they're hard of hearing. Or simply unaware, the project manager who sends last-minute changes. Rather than seeing them as chaotic, you might see a person under immense pressure from above, trying to hold things together. This doesn't mean you don't set boundaries or address issues. It means you address them from a place of composed understanding, not reactive annoyance. Your energy stays focused on solving the problem, not fighting the person. So here's a reflective prompt, a way to practice this boundary of interconnectedness. The next time you feel a flash of irritation toward someone, whether a stranger or someone you know, pause. Before the story of their fault solidifies in your mind, ask one question. What part of the whole do they represent? See them for just a moment, not as a disconnected source of your frustration, but as a piece of the vast, complex system you both live within. This question doesn't excuse poor behavior, it contextualizes it, and in that wider context, your own focus finds a steadier ground. You're no longer at war with fragments of the universe. You're a conscious part of it, deciding how to respond. You don't have time for later. Later is a story we tell ourselves. It's a way to avoid the focus that's required right now. That's the 19th boundary. It's like the active, prodding cousin of Memento Mori. It takes the awareness that life is short and turns it into something positive. Something immediate, not for anxiety but for starting. This boundary defeats procrastination by making the cost of delay clear, painfully clear. Seneca's letter on the shortness of life gets to the heart of it. He argued that life is long enough if you know how to use it. The problem isn't that we have a short time, it's that we waste so much of it. We postpone our most meaningful work. We tell ourselves we'll start when conditions are perfect, when we have more time or more energy or more confidence. That later is a fantasy. It's a comfortable lie. It lets us off the hook from the focused effort that feels difficult today. The Stoic practice is to call that bluff, to use your limited time as the very reason to begin. Right now, not in some grand, overwhelming way, but in the smallest step you can manage. The boundary is the decision to work on that delayed project for just 15 minutes. Today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, because someday is not a day on the calendar. It's a thief. It steals potential. Think about the project you've been putting off. Writing a book, learning a skill, starting a business, having a difficult conversation. The whole mountain feels impossible, so you do nothing. You distract yourself with smaller tasks. You clean your desk, you scroll, you research endlessly but never apply. The boundary of life's shortness asks a jarring question. If not now, then when? And if the answer is vague, you know you're procrastinating. The antidote is to shrink the mountain to a single stone. You don't have to write the book today. You have to write 300 words. You don't have to master the skill. You have to practice for 15 focused minutes. You don't have to launch the business. You have to sketch one idea for a logo or send one inquiry email. The act of starting, however tiny, does two things. It proves to your own mind that the task is not a monster. And it honors the truth that this present moment is the only one you can ever truly use. You trade the vague promise of a future later for the concrete reality of a present now. That trade is where focus is born, so here's a reflective prompt and a challenge. Identify one thing you've postponed, one meaningful task that feels big and lingers in your mind. Now define the smallest possible first step, the absolute smallest, opening the document and writing one sentence, doing 5 minutes of research on a single question. Sending a 2-line text to schedule a chat. Then, take that step within the next hour, not later today, within the hour. set a timer for 15 minutes and give that step your full attention. In that act, you are building the 19th boundary. You are telling procrastination it has lost its power because you are no longer bargaining with time you cannot guarantee. You are using the time you have. A mind that waits for the world to entertain it is always waiting to be distracted. The last boundary is self-sufficiency, autarkeia. Its goal is to become your own source of validation, so the world's chatter loses its power to pull you away. This is where all the other boundaries lead. It's about finding a well of contentment inside yourself. When that well is deep, you aren't thirsty for every external thing. You aren't vulnerable to the lure of constant approval or the fear of missing out. Your focus anchors in something stable, something that doesn't change with trends or other people's opinions. Epictetus drew a sharp line. He said the fool gets his good from the actions of others. The wise man gets his good from his own actions. The fool's happiness is like a kite at the mercy of every wind. It depends on praise, on likes, on being invited, on having the right things. The wise person's happiness is like a deep-rooted tree. It draws nourishment from its own character, its own judgments, its own actions. When your sense of worth is internal, you stop needing to check the scoreboard. You stop refreshing the page to see if you're winning. That compulsive checking drains your focus. It scatters your attention across 100 external mirrors, trying to see a reflection you like. Autarkeia is putting down those mirrors and learning to see yourself from the inside. A mind that relies on external stimulation is easily distracted because it's always hungry. It needs the next video, the next notification, the next piece of gossip, the next purchase just to feel okay. A self-sufficient mind isn't hungry. It's nourished by its own company. It can choose its focus from a place of abundance, not lack. It can engage with the world out of curiosity or contribution, not from a desperate need to fill a void. The most direct way to practice this is also the hardest in our connected age. Spend time alone with your own thoughts without any digital input. No podcasts, no music, no scrolling. Just you, your mind, maybe a notebook. The goal isn't to have profound thoughts. The goal is to be okay with not being entertained. To find interest in your own reflections, however mundane they seem at first. Go for a walk without headphones, sit with a cup of tea and just watch the light change in the room. In that quiet, you'll likely feel an initial itch, a restlessness. That's the hunger of the externally dependent mind. It's screaming for its usual pacifier. The practice is to sit with that itch, to observe it, and to discover that it passes. And on the other side is a quiet clarity, a sense that you are enough just as you are in this moment. This self-sufficiency isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about building an inner foundation so strong that when you do engage with the world, you do it from choice, not from need. Your conversations are richer because you aren't using the other person to validate you. Your work is more focused because you aren't doing it for the applause, but for the integrity of the work itself. You can enjoy entertainment without needing it. You can receive feedback without being defined by it. So here's a reflective prompt, a final challenge. Schedule 30 minutes of disconnected, purposeless time. Don't call it meditation if that feels like a task. Call it practicing your own company. In that half hour, have no goal. Don't try to solve a problem or plan your week. Just be. You might walk, you might sit and stare out a window, you might doodle in a notebook. The only rule is no screens, no planned audio input. Observe what your mind does. Notice the urges to reach for a device and then let them float by. In that space, you are watering the roots of your own tree. You are reminding yourself that you contain enough to hold your own attention. When you can be your own good company, the world's endless attempts to capture your focus start to look like what they are, not necessities but options. And a truly focused life is built on knowing the difference. These 20 boundaries aren't a fortress, They're a discipline of choice, a way to decide moment by moment where your attention goes. The whole thing comes back to that first split. Some things are up to us and some are not. The chaos outside isn't yours to command, but the world inside your own judgment, that's your kingdom. And these boundaries are the laws you write for its peace. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. What could more aptly fit your needs? He wasn't talking about passivity. He meant the calm that comes when you stop fighting what you can't change and you pour your focus into what you can. Your effort, your character, your response, that's where the power is, not in controlling the storm, but in steering your ship through it. So where do you start? Not with all 20, that's too much. Look back through them, let 2 or 3 resonate, the ones that felt like a quiet click. Maybe it's the daily review, or the 3-second rule of silence, or just premeditating your distractions. Choose those, practice them deliberately, not as a checklist but as an experiment. See what happens when you build that inner citadel, one stone at a time. Mastery isn't a destination, it's the quality of the journey, a lifelong practice of returning your focus again and again to what matters.